Hello and welcome to another exciting installment of Lick, is what I've been calling it now. Live, inspirational, common unity collaboration. Z hates Lick, but I think it works. What do you think? And so today we've got wonderful guests. We have Meghan Roekle, who is a wonderful being, a clinical psychologist, and a spiritually aware consciousness, which is where we connected at the Science and Non-Duality Conference. Please like and share the show, sharing in particular, tag, share to groups, blah, blah, blah. And in a seamless transition, I will pull up Meghan. Hello!
Hi, hello.
Oh, God, so good to see you.
Fantastic to see you.
Where are you, love?
I'm in Chicago, Illinois.
Chicago.
Sheltering in place in my little place here with my terrier in his crate for the time being.
What, he has to stay sheltered in his little home as well?
Sheltered in his, yes. A little more of a pen there. Yeah, he's a very...
No, what are you
very
talking about?
terrier.
Seriously? He has to stay in his house?
What's that?
Your dog has to stay in his doghouse?
Dog has to stay in his doghouse, yes.
Why?
Well, because he's such a terrier, he would just be up in here. He would just be... The interview would be all about him.
Oh, I see. Just for the interview.
Yes, exactly. Just for the interview, exactly.
All right. I'm trying to
The rest of
understand.
the time he's on my lap. And...
I was trying to understand whether it was some sort of like COVID thing, you know.
No.
Okay, cool.
Just so we can chat, so we can actually talk.
Nice. Meghan, tell us about you. And you know, you can tell us about your official front, and then I want to know more about the non-official front, of course. This is Transmutational Thursday, after all. So.
Yes, transmute. I love it. I love that word. So yeah, I'm a classically trained clinical psychologist. I still have my license. I practice in Chicago, but slowly but surely, I'm liberating myself from the medical model in this profession, and becoming a coach. And I work with a teacher and friend named Kiran Trace, and I'm slowly taking clients from her. And so I'm sort of in this place where I see some people live and use medical models and have to like diagnose and stuff, although I've always held that very lightly. And then really just very practical coaching stuff where I do a lot of inquiry, embodiment, stillness practices. As you mentioned, the phrase tools for sanity comes from Kiran, that's her book. And the very simple tools that are much more effective than going through the psychological models that I was trained in.
Right. So then.
So yeah, I do one-on-one, I do groups, and I teach meditation. I teach a live embodiment meditation with a musician. So that's my gig.
My internet is reporting instabilities. Hold on a second.
Frozen for me though.
Let's see.
Okay.
Can you hear me still? How are we? Are we doing okay? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're just frozen, but I can hear you.
Oh, I'm physically frozen?
I can hear you, yep.
But you can't see
Can
me?
you hear me? You're physically frozen, but I can hear you.
How strange.
No, I can, yeah, there you go. Now you're animated again.
I'm back?
You're back. Alive, yes.
I'm sorry.
Avatar active.
My internet was reporting instabilities. So failed to load live broadcast. I wonder if we're still going live. I might have to double check that because the internet did dudley la. Yes, it seems we are live. Okay, good. So, you know, part of the reason why it's great that you've got this background in the clinical world. What have you seen different since the COVID thing? What's really standing out for you?
In terms of what people are up against,
Yeah.
or
What are people
what
are people dealing with, and what have you noticed about this whole situation?
well, so so the folks I work with at this point, if they've been able to hang with me, and I'm pretty full. Like I see a full caseload of people a day. I don't do more than 4 sessions, but they're all online. I've already seen a lot of people online and over the phone anyway, so just going all the way online for me was great. And all the folks I'm working with at this point are really committed to truth and liberation and living a life of real fulfillment, or what Kiran calls delicious yes.
Nice.
So my people, my little community, this has been just a deepening of that, where it's time to dive deep into inquiry, questioning thoughts, coming into their bodies, spending hours in meditation, accessing silence, looking at their patterns in relationship, unpacking things that they now have time to do, and seeing how so many of their fears are not true. So my folks are, yes, we are all sort of pressurized, like our core beliefs and lack and limitation thoughts and deep fears are coming up. But for the majority of my folks, they have these tools in their pocket and they're able to go deeper with them during this time.
What sort of tools?
Experience. So it's actually like really exciting and liberating.
I feel there's a massive delay.
Listen again, so I can only hear you.
There's a delay on our thing, isn't there?
Okay.
Yeah. What sort of tools?
I can still hear you, but so you can buy Kiran's book for $5 on my website, and here are her ideas for the tools. So the tools for sanity are awareness, just simple, plain old awareness. Acceptance, which is like a warm welcome to whatever's here in our system, whatever's going on. What she calls alchemy, which is transmutation. So the deep awareness in the body of where the sort of pain driving all of our fear comes from.
Right.
So when we bring awareness into the body, and as a psychologist, I didn't learn this at all, but it's really the body that heals. From my experience, it's not actually the mind. We can wake up from the mind, but we actually heal the body. So alchemy is the transmutation of that blocked energy by realizing the thought isn't true and entering the body and healing that grip and that wound from the past. So those are the three first tools. And then the last one is alignment, where you start to move your life from the body and from silence and get more into alignment in your work and your relationships, etc. So really, that's the end game is really to have our lives align with our true nature. So our true nature as awareness, and then our true nature as a body, as a being, which we're all pretty out of touch with, pretty disembodied species as humans.
So there's a lot of work, a lot of focus on the somatic aspect of pain and of discomfort. What yes, that's where the wound is. Carry on. Forget this internet thing. You just talk if you want to talk.
No, that's it. Okay. Yeah, well, you are mentioning somatic, so yes, there's a lot of emphasis on that. There's I like this psychologist Locke Kelly. He talks about waking up, waking in, and waking out. So we wake up from the mind, we take awareness, and we question our thoughts and look at them versus from them. So we use plain old awareness to just look at that. And then we wake in, so we come into the body, we start to enter and inhabit the body, which is also where the healing goes down and where all our pain is stored. And then we wake out, which would be to really open the body and to transmute and start to realize from a very visceral place our connectedness, our oneness, and our vastness. Yeah. So I do those three things in a sense.
Let's talk about the awakening to the. Well, let's talk about those in sections. Which you approach first with somebody, their body, because it seems to be that's where things are stored.
Not usually. So, and still people are coming through, well, not anymore. Nobody's coming through the psychotherapy door anymore. They're coming through the coaching door. But even the folks coming through the coaching door, I would really start with the psychology. We would start with what are they up against in their life right now? And so they have a relationship issue. They don't like their job. Their neighbor's an asshole or whatever it is. And inside of that experience is going to be some lack and limitation beliefs, no doubt. And so beliefs like there's not enough resources, I'm not good enough, I always get it wrong, um, you know, the world is going to shit. I mean, belief system after belief system, all these things that are picked up in the ether of our lives from our, obviously from our society, from our parents, etc. So we go through and we identify where those painful beliefs are, and only the ones that are stressful. If there are ideas, thoughts, stories that are effortless, well, then they're in alignment with reality. So we just, and this comes from Byron Katie, where she talks about, questioning your stressful thoughts. So really, I usually will start with inquiry, where we just start laying out where are those beliefs, what are they, what are the core aspects of them. And then when we come into the healing piece of it, we're often going maybe back into the childhood a little bit to see where that originated, where that wound really originated, to maybe go take care of the little one that is hurting, that's believing they screw everything up. And then really bringing awareness into that wound. Maybe it's a heartbreak, maybe it's a blocked throat chakra where they really feel like there's a knot in their throat, or a solar plexus grip. And just simply by bringing that awareness into the body, it starts to soften and open that spot. So it's a combination, but I would say I usually start with the psychology, and we just practice embodiment a little bit at a time, because most folks, it's like there's a ton of beliefs even about going into the body. They start to touch the heartbreak or the grip, and beliefs like, this is going to overwhelm me, I'm going to be non-functional, I can't handle this pain, et cetera, et cetera. We then have to kind of go through those. So it's more like the second step, but it's highly improvisational over here. So I do just trust source, and I trust the moment, and I trust what arises, and let myself be led by that too.
And then one of the things I always caught my attention was the notion that people in our society, in our medical model, don't blend disciplines. For example, my friend is a clinical psychologist. She's also a massage therapist. Now, she is qualified in both of those two, but she would never be able to practice both at the same time. What's the deal with that? Because surely the holistic nature is to have them all at the same time.
Yes, totally, which is why I'm letting go of my license as I go here, just because it's all these lack and limitation beliefs about, like, there's no understanding of what our true nature is. There's no awareness of the body. There's all these ideas of like not being able to touch, and I mean all kinds of stuff that we can understand, but we're outgrowing, and it's time for these disciplines and these ideas to come together, and obviously to have an integrated approach.
So then, I mean, do you do any of that work, the body work, or do you outsource them? So you've identified the pain points. Okay, so you weren't heard when you were a child. Okay, we went back to a time when you were talking to your parents and they told you to shut up and be quiet, and you really felt that deep and you remember that. Okay, so blah blah blah. Now what? Like physically, do you send them off to somewhere?
So I don't. So and this is why I do a lot of embodiment meditation in person. I did it in a community setting. Now we're doing it live streaming, where we're practicing coming into the body, because we each, as awareness, so what's looking out of your eyes, and everybody,
Right.
like period, like to spill the beans, that's who you are. You're pure awareness. And then you have this amazing, gorgeous avatar. And so awareness itself is a healing. I've gone to the energy psychology conference for the last 12 years. It's coming up in a couple weeks, and it's great fun, and there's all kinds of healers there. And I've had a bunch of healing. I have a bunch of friends who do every kind of energy healing, and I totally respect it and love it. But they're also missing some of the non-dual truth that we understand. You and I might be aware of. But there's
we'll come back to that.
To talk about the power of awareness, and that really all energy healing. What's that?
Sorry. This internet's terrible. We'll
I don't
come
know
back to
what
the
you said,
non-dual truth.
uh, yeah. So non-dual truth. So and the energy psychology conference. So all these beautiful healings, beautiful energy healings. Um, there's a woman named Beverly Rubik who's been studying energy healing for 35 years. I don't know if you know her, but she's like,
she was on the show 2 weeks ago.
she was on the show. Oh my God, perfect. Huge respect for Beverly. Oh my God. Because she like such a translation, right, to help us understand what it is and how real it is. But she gave this great keynote. I think it was like 2 years ago, maybe it was last year. I don't know. Where she talked about, like, in the lab, if you look at like whether it's hands-on healing or acupuncture or whatever it is, the conductor for the energy moving through the body is awareness. And so that doesn't need to be my awareness. Like, I don't need to be a healer putting my hands on somebody. It can be their awareness, because same awareness. So when I teach meditation and embodiment, we're just taking your awareness and bringing it inside, not the mind, but awareness. And just bringing awareness into the heart starts to move the energy. And people can feel that, and they report on it. And so I don't do it. I give it over to them, and they become their own healer. And of course, like, that can be enhanced by somebody else's presence, somebody who really is a beautiful channel to that source energy. So I do outsource some healing. I will refer to a couple Reiki people here and there, and that kind of stuff. But for the most part, I'm hopefully empowering people to do that for themselves. And I am. I mean, I know it's true. They give me that feedback. And you can feel like in these community meditations I do, it's so great. Kiran will call it, like, we'll get all just so stoned on silence and so open and so, like, really healed. Like, I'll have people being spontaneously healed, right? They'll just say, like, my migraine I've had for 2 days went away, my knee pain went away, and all they did, I didn't do anything. All they did was bring awareness into their knees or their heart pain or whatever it was. So.
What is this awareness?
What is it? Well, who you are, who I am.
What, Markabadi?
Well, there is this, like, lovely animated avatar that we call Markabadi, who's just adorable, and we love him. But before the story of Markabadi, and in deep, deep sleep, there is just awareness. And it's an amazing story, but before any story of who we are, before the body even, there is just pure awareness. So I don't know, I guess, like, there's a great non-dual teacher I like named Fred Davis, and he just calls awakening, like, awake awareness. So it's just awareness aware of itself. And we rest in that awareness and rest as that awareness. And then there's qualities to awareness, like vastness, silence, purity, clarity, sanity, that you discover as you explore it, let's say.
You see, there's a kind of paradox here, because I know all these questions that I'm asking you about awareness are totally unanswerable in the notion of it, and so there's a part of me that's like, no, don't bother asking that. But I'm going to, for all those people.
It's fun to talk about.
For all those people who have no idea what we're talking about, and it's not really an idea, but
I know.
So
well,
yeah.
But here I'm so the pragmatist, right? When you and I met, we talked about this. Like, this is not esoteric. This is not spiritual. This is not a belief system. This is not theory. This is not science and non-duality. This is like I'm not a non-dualist. It's very real and very visceral. Like, this is, for me, I started doing embodiment after you and I met, like in 2015 or something, with Judith Blackstone originally, and then Kiran. And it was the first time I knew about awareness, and had some like mini awakening experiences where I could see it was all one, or I could see these different things, blah blah blah, who cares. But it was really coming through the body and starting to sort of feel this real oneness. It's very tangible, it's a very real thing, as Judith calls it, the realization process. And as Kiran knows, always walking us into this silent field, it's not something, so I use these words and we say these things, but it's not something for the mind at all. It's something you actually have to realize and sense, I would say. So a lot of what we do in embodiment is do the healing work, but we're also touching in and feeling into that real, true nature of pure oneness and silence. So these are all words, are all pointers, as you know, but they point to a real thing, not a theoretical thing.
So are we talking like the soul or God?
I use the word God or source or silence or life. I guess all interchangeable.
What I mean, who is the thing that's doing the observation? If you go into the oneness, where does Meghan exist in the oneness?
Yeah, so I think of Meghan as like, if we use that name, right, is this sort of unique field that arises out of oneness, and that unique Meghanness it has qualities and flavors, and it has a very particular, never before flavor. So just like a flower, or just like all these, I use animal metaphors all the time, right? So it's the same energy, it's the same oneness. So, but what Meghan is not, if we're going to just use names, is not this story, right? Of which is really the painful self that we're going to try to be, that we think we are, the ego, the me, etc. That's really a hallucinated me.
Whoa.
Right? Where like
Sorry,
this body will have my hair grew out, right? So it's like, this is an example from this guy Paul Hederman, that my hair grows out, and then we'll have the sentence like, I grew out my hair. Right. Or like, I'm breathing even, but there isn't really a self, there isn't a little homunculus, a Meghan inside the Meghan breathing, or doing, or thinking, or growing her hair, or rebuilding her pancreas every day, or whatever. So it's all the trouble is in the separate self concept, the doer concept, that we think we are. So that case of mistaken identity. But who we call Meghan, this body, is real, arising out of oneness, and definitely has a unique signature. And so a lot of the embodiment work is to really get to know Meghan, get to know this being, not who she thinks she should be, not this me idea, not the good one, the pious one, the spiritual one, the smart one, but rather maybe the pissed off one, maybe the hungry one, maybe the whatever, to allow the natural being to emerge, versus the artificial, let's say, from our conditioning.
Well, and what about these people who talk about, getting somewhere and evolving, and like the soul is on its 5th life, and in another 10 lives you'll get to enlightenment. What about that whole jazz?
Yeah, not that interested in that stuff. Honestly, I don't really believe it. I think that there's a natural evolution going on. Like if you watch a beaver, the beaver's dam is a little more elaborate and cool each year, and the trees are growing bigger, and the snake's skin is even more vibrant. And then of course the body goes, so evolution is a very natural process. That we like, again, the separate self believing that they need to evolve themselves or be better.
Right. That's
a hallucination that's unnecessary. There's a natural evolution that we really just want to allow, that has a flow and an ease to it.
So is there not anything after death for the personality, for the Markabadi? Is there not like a storage of information that I'm accumulating in my journey, and then I die, and I go back somewhere, and they wipe my memory, and then I go, okay, I'll choose that family this time, and I go down and I add more lessons to it, and I'm collecting in my little lesson box in my soul.
Yeah. Well, I think of it, if that's the case, and sure, I'm a big fan of, I just started reading like Dolores Cannon stuff all about past life regressions and aliens. I'm a huge fan of it, all of it, but I also hold it all very lightly. And it's really not my like practical day-to-day interest, but let's say it's true, and P.S. my teacher Kiran she had a massive spontaneous awakening, similar to like an Eckhart Tolle or a Byron Katie. And then, but with like nothing there, like zero filters. And it was very obvious there was all oneness. And she's got a fascinating story worth the read. And then she got what she calls like the upgraded package, which is clairvoyancy and the ability to see past lives. So she would often like lose herself. Like it was sort of like a circuit board or something where like she would be in 2008, but then all of a sudden it's the 1700s and she'd be with her friend who also knew their past lives. And she'd be like, where am I? Who are you? Kind of lost in which part of the circuit board she was in.
Right.
All of it happening at one time. So that's awareness, aware of all of these streams of being, let's say. But if we have a job, like here on Earth, I would say it's not to collect, but to let go, right? To pull the veils off of all the overlays, if you want to use Indian language or just belief systems, of separation, and that doesn't really collect. And I think if anything, we get lighter and lighter, and we're not earning our way or anything. Right. And we're all one. So it's sort of, and Kiran has this lovely way of talking about karma, and like it's all one, right? So she had a really torturous childhood, and she talks about this, but she tells the story once of like looking back at her childhood and looking at like all the horrors there and still needing a ton of healing post-awakening, P.S., right? Like her awakening was really, really rough because there was so much to heal. But looking at like her father and these other people who were who caused a lot of pain in her life, and then as if she could like pull their mask off and like God is like winking. Like basically it's just God playing different roles, right? So we wouldn't go like, if they were all actors in a play,
right,
that the villain is worst and like needs to like work harder and like evolve more.
Right.
Not really, In fact, we might even say that's the tougher role to play.
Right. Yeah. There's this interest to the veil. For me, I'm interested in talking to you about this because that's, one of our deepest connections was in the non-dual space of awareness. There's a notion that goes around, and these are the ones that I'm sort of presenting here, are the notions amongst the sideline spiritual people who are reading books about experiences and realizations and then trying to allow the mind to adapt them into conclusions and then filling in the gaps to where they don't know. Like one of the belief systems is when you're a master, a spiritually enlightened being, that suddenly you are this beacon of peace and harmony, and that you have no emotions, and that you are literally just like, there was one guy at Science and Non-Duality, he was a French dude, and his demonstration was just to sit on stage like this. I don't know if you were there that year. Francis, right. Just like this.
Yeah. Not very animated.
And it's like...
Yes, I remember all the non-dual people, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so...
Yeah.
So, the point, what do you say to the people who talk about when you get these states of enlightenment, or states of, it's not states of enlightenment, states of realization and then enlightenment, that you can't be enlightened because you still get upset?
Yeah, it's totally bonkers. It's just so crazy. It's just so crazy. Kieran's nickname is Clarity Bitch. She's known to be, she's a big fan of anger. She has all these great little YouTube videos. She has so many resources. If you go to her website or if you go to mine, you can link to hers. But she has like for instance, like 5 different YouTube videos about anger and how a huge fan of anger she is. You know, it's just like a huge, huge fan of anger, because anger is really your boundary, right? And your no in your system. And if you think about animals or babies, you wouldn't say they're less enlightened when they bark or where they fucking push away food, or if they don't want to play with Johnny on the playground. You know, you don't go like they're a less enlightened being. It's like that. Really, that's where we're going back to this place of allowing the energetic body, the natural movements to take over, or God to take over, right? Like thy will be done, because that has so much sanity in it and clarity in it, but it doesn't look any particular way. It might look like a raging bitch.
Right.
I've definitely found I'm way more of a bitch than I've ever been because I know what I like and what I don't like. Like, I'm much more in touch with that, right? And I don't suffer a fool, you know, for very long. So certainly I'm not going to look spiritual. But here's the thing. It's like the very first blog post I ever wrote was called Knowledge of Good and Evil, and it was about getting rid of the words good, bad, right, and wrong. Just tossing them out completely. They're completely useless. Because really what we want is the truth. And the truth is, as a human, we got it all. We have rage and anger and pain and grief and heartbreak and wailing and tantruming and fuck you, and it's all in there potentially. And I swear, if it's got an effortless signature, these are some of Kiran's words, like if it's delicious or effortless, it's truth. So the reason I'm dropping like good, bad, right, and wrong is because I'm a fan of, and I can't see what else works other than truth. So the truth for this body in this moment might be fuck off, I don't want to talk to you.
Right.
And I'm going to choose truth every time. I will choose truth over happy, over good, over nice person, over anything.
So hold on. So what about God wanting things, having opinions and stuff?
God wanting things? Yeah, well, this is God. This wants things. This has a ton of desires.
But what, I'm talking about the God that is in religious notions and...
Oh, yeah.
Those sort of concepts.
The God wanting things. So I just think of like, God is this. God is this. God is this. There's no separation. There's no spiritual plane. Like, it's all one. And so I am God, you are God. And this being, this God as Meghan, God as Mark, has built-in desires. And they're gorgeous. They're totally sane. They help us thrive. So, we're really moving either from fear, which is like trying to be anything, being a good person, all that stuff, all that me, or from truth, which has desire in it. It has the body in it. And yeah, it wants and wants and wants and wants and wants, and then it doesn't want. It's very clear, actually. This is what I'm talking about, being a raging bitch sometimes.
Do you think that the notions of the modern religions then have kind of served to hoodwink us into this concept that there is a separate being that is God to us? And was that always the case?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's right. I think it's a hoodwinking. It's a strange thing. I remember as a kid, I like challenged the priest. Like, I grew up a little Catholic, and then we kind of left the church, and I was always interested in truth and like who had the truth. And I remember going like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get what we're doing in church. Like, if Jesus knew shit, I just want to know what Jesus knew. Like, I don't want to hear the priest talk about it, or even necessarily Jesus. I just want to like go there, So it's sort of like this middleman that's come in that says, you're not God, you're separate from God. You're not unworthy. You're not good enough. You have to earn your way. Like, what? The giraffe doesn't have to earn its way. The frog doesn't earn its way. The tree doesn't earn its way. Like, this is insanity. So, yeah, hoodwinked. But then I would say we're hoodwinked by the spiritual worlds too, right? Where you're going to try to be more nice or more transcendent or more caring. I hear this all the time, like, or compassionate.
Right.
And it's like, what's true? right? That's God. What's true? Do you like hanging out with this person? No.
So then it's not. So then does the God not care whether there's justice or injustice? Are those such things?
Well, this is a huge question, right? Like, those are human ideas of what's just and unjust.
Right.
And you know, yeah, I have a real question around what we think is just or unjust. And I would say, if we're going to rebuild societies and rebuild economies, what we want to aim for is what's true, right? So we, versus, like, I think it's a higher thing to aim for than justice or equality, or so, you know, it's like, what's true? And I just heard this phrase, and I'm sure you know about this, but like, what is it? This guy was talking about anarchic communism or something. And he was talking about like communities where everybody is doing, in our phraseology, in Kiran's phraseology, it would be what's delicious for them. So you have a community where justice isn't even on the board. It's more like, is it true? So the gardener is a gardener because they love gardening,
right?
And the
right.
builder is a builder because they love building. Yeah. And I can't find how anything other than that is sane.
Yeah. Well, who cleans the toilet?
The guy who likes to clean the toilet. And this is the belief that there's nobody who wants to clean the toilet, and that's not true. I've met several janitors in my life, one of which adored his job.
It is an interesting concept. I mean, I've often thought about that. Like, even to the point, what are we doing with all this money system? Why don't we just do what we like doing, and everyone
Yes.
just share that?
Yeah.
It's almost madness to me. I don't understand it.
It's madness. I think it's total madness. And it might take, you know, mixed economies and different things. So we have these little, like, sane communities. But when we link up to the more insane, larger cultures with different kinds of economies, I don't know. Because it'll take a while for that to scale up, I think. But I think that's the only sustainable way. I think all of these fear-based institutions are gotta, you know, eventually fall.
I mean, what do we do when, you know, one person's truth clashes with another person's truth? It's my truth that I want to nick your money. It's my truth I don't want my money nicked. I mean, you know.
So yeah, I would say that's not actually moving from truth, right? Because it's really moving from fear, right? And there's maybe a fear that there's a lack of resources.
Oh, let's take another example.
Yeah.
Walking down the street, it's one guy's truth that he fancies that girl and wants to go and have sex with her, and it's her truth that she's like, the fuck are you, mate? I don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah. So right. So in our sane community, right, we're aiming for, Kiran's word is consensus versus compromise. So consensus would be everybody's desires are on the table. So
right, nothing hidden.
Yeah, and it might be like if that guy were at all forceful, then he's not in alignment. He's not actually in his truth. But if he's in alignment and he says to her, I want to have sex with you, and she then is in alignment and says, well, you know, I'd like a few dates first, you know,
dinner,
we
maybe.
can reach some consensus of our desires, you know, like, okay, cool. I'm down for a few dates, and I'm down for considering whether I'll have sex with you. And we find where there's consensus, and we can always find consensus, which may be no for both of us.
Right.
But often it's way more like cool, the ways that we can connect. Yeah.
So consensus obviously depends on communication, and communication depends, and communication depends on, being open, being honest. So is the hidden...
And being in touch with yourself.
Yes. Right? So is the hidden the root of all problem?
Is the what?
The hidden. That which is hidden.
The hidden.
That which is being resisted.
Yeah.
Is resistance indeed, as the Borg say, futile?
Yes. Right. Right. Yes. My God, do we have a lot of resistance in our systems, but it is futile because reality eventually fucking wins. Like, there's no it's going to. So my desire, my yeses, my nos, the truth in my body is going to win. So yes, the hidden or the unexamined, the unlooked at, the hidden beliefs that are really operating us. But I love this idea of, like, that Byron Katie says, of stress is an alarm bell. So that, like, our life is built so well to wake us up. So when we're in stress and we're up against something and we're really suffering, to utilize that to start to wake up, to go, what is operating here? It must be, since I'm not in flow, it must be, since things aren't smooth, that I'm in resistance. It's just got to be. So if is something effortless and delicious, then we're in reality. We're moving with the natural flow of life. If we're up against stress, or Kiran has this great free book where she describes the 5 patterns of resistance. So there's the feeling of being fogged out or checked out, or cloaking, like an invisible cloak, and an aggressive mind, all these different things that are signs. It's like an alarm bell, I'm in resistance here. And yeah, exactly, what's hidden, what is here, and we just bring that awareness, that curiosity of what's here, sweetheart, what's going on, and in the ways that we didn't get parented, loved, attended to, met, seen. So to not think if I'm stressed or I'm suffering or I'm in resistance, that's bad, but rather to utilize it to pull what's hidden out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it seems like the hidden is key here in evolving into the awareness that you spoke about, into the state of truth.
Yeah. That's the journey. That's the fun. is the healing, is the uncovering of those patterns and beliefs that we're operating from. And then when we can unpack it and we can open it in our system, it's so young. I mean, there's nothing better than that. The feeling of your heart opening, the feeling of being free, of connected, of the truth of who you are. So it's, yes, to bring the hidden into light is so much fun.
Yeah. Why aren't people doing it automatically?
Oh, belief system after belief system, that they're not safe. That it won't be safe when they expose themselves, right? I mean, I have 10 of those beliefs. Even getting on here, it's there's still beliefs that it's not safe to be fully myself. It's not safe to tell the truth in public. It's not safe to expose my heart.
God, yeah. I see that a lot, the safety thing, and it really brings sadness to me, because in a way there's I feel anger at it, because it feels like there's been a bullying system in place that has made people feel unsafe, and they are unsafe in a way. I mean, even just talking like this online, you opening ourselves up for a whole barrage of attack from the religious nutcases or the fundamental, I don't know, Zaites, if that was such a thing. Whatever. But yeah. This notion that, I mean, are we moving in society towards, do you think, towards creating spaces that are safe, or are we still getting further away from that?
Well, I think us being here is an example of more safe places, right? People who are, I remember when I first did my community meditation, I was so scared. It was like a past life terror where I was like, I'm gonna get killed. I can't do this. I can't go expose this to people. And Kiran was like, it's 2019. I think there's no lynch mob. I think we're okay. And so we have to look. We have to take awareness. We have to look at what's actually going on, underneath these belief systems. And so we can read the news and we can tell the story of I'm not safe, and our pain body, Eckhart Tolle's word, can really get into that story of it's such an unjust world and I'm unsafe and nobody's getting better and nobody stands. But it's if we really look, oh my God, there's a million shows like this, right? There's conferences, there's so many things going on that are opening up places to explore this stuff that I've been listening to this woman, Dolores Cannon, who did a lot of her work in like the 70s and 80s. And like the amount of change in these 30 years where we have such freedom and such, obviously, an ability to connect online and connect all over the place. My community with Kiran is all over the world, and it's so safe, and we expose everything on our community boards. And then that community just keeps growing, and that's connected with other communities. So in my world, I see a lot of safety and a lot of communities building, and then we have that visceral feeling of it's safe to be with people, it's safe to just be me. And if there are people in our lives who, when you are authentically you, not the like, I'm just gonna tell them what's what, like not that, but the real deal, and they're throwing their agenda at you or their projections or whatever, is there really a value for you in being around them?
Yeah. I mean, how do you know that the difference between the true you and just the angry you? Like, I mean, if the true me is like, no, yeah, bastard, and I'm going to fucking tell you why, and the angry me is, no, because I'm remembering stuff from my childhood and I'm projecting onto you, but I don't really know the difference. So how do...
Totally. No, it's such an essential question. It's huge. It's like the question. And so so Kiran lays it out that it's what the signature is. So does it come from effortless? Does it feel like ease, like an exhale, like, because then it's just like the dog wailing, or the birds chirping. It's that very natural expression, and it can be communicated in human language in a very effective way. And I was saying like this bitch is here, and it's like the more I own the bitch, the less bitchy I am.
Right.
I'm not bitchy at all. I'm just clear, basically. So I actually don't even read as a bitch. I'm just clear, So maybe I do. I don't know. But anyway, the signature is one of effortless, of ease. And that can include like, tantruming on the floor, or just sometimes having a loud voice or whatever. It could include anything. And as we know, like sometimes that's what's up. Like sometimes somebody's not listening, and I'm very clear in sessions, and I'm often have the tool of the feather, but sometimes it's the sword. And that's just what's true in my system and what's true for the moment. But always it's going to have the signature of effortless. And if it has effort in it, then it's got some mind going and some agenda and a separate self in there.
So should that be the target that people should be going to then? Where is the effortlessness in your living? And that is where your truth is.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It really, Kiran calls it your delicious yes. So you're listening for that, and you're coming into the body. The body is the key. You're not going to find what's delicious and effortless in the head. It's not and fear can mask as effortless. It can it can go like, it can be the idea of effortless, which is really like, well, I got everything done on my list, and so that's effortless. And it's like, no, that was all driven from effort. And it's just a momentary respite of that fear and that driving, being like having a break from that. That's not what we mean by effortless. We mean really a full body yum. And so I'm always differentiating this with my clients, like, what are we really talking about here? And even myself, like, I'll like cook something for dinner that I think is delicious, but I didn't really listen to my body. My body is really the one to decide, and it knows exactly what it wants, because my belly is downloading everything from my blood and my endocrine system and all the nutrients I need. And if I want a fucking hamburger, that's what's true, right? And if I try to like figure out what's delicious from my mind, I'm not gonna be able to do it. So when we're talking about effortless, it's a full body effortless feeling. But this takes time. This takes practice. This isn't a one-shot deal, because none of us are very practiced. We started disembodying when we were injured, when we were very little beings. So we have to slowly come back and listen.
There is an element of this, fear as well, right? So fear is a natural protective instinct, but it's also, as a lot of us know, has gone way out of control with regards to this. with regards to modern day living. How do we come to terms with honoring the emotions, honoring the fear, but not being hoodwinked by it?
Yeah, exactly. So, so this goes back to awareness, because if you're grounded as awareness, then you're nailing it. Which is, so again, going back to like Kiran's 4 tools, we've got awareness, acceptance, alchemy, and alignment. So from awareness, we warmly welcome everything that's here, and awareness is so vast and so soft and so effortless, and it has no problem with fear being here.
Right.
It is very welcome to be here. It's just that it isn't. Its right position is not to drive the car. So, yeah, it's and really that whole what you resist persists. Like if we don't bring awareness to the fear is what's driving.
Right.
But as soon as we take awareness and warmly welcome it, and like with total compassion, right? Like you know why you would have this fear, right? You know your conditioning. I mean, maybe you want to do some inquiry and look and see where that might have come from in your past. But a lot of it we can start to like just awareness alone, you can start to see like, yeah, no wonder I have this fear, right?
Right.
So there's this compassion, just like you would have toward a little child, of like, oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. Of course you're scared. And you would not indulge that child's belief, right? You wouldn't try to like get weapons to protect them from the dragon. Like you would help them see under the bed that there's not a dragon, that they're safe, that they're okay, or help them go, play with their brother or whatever they really need, and not indulge the fear. So it's a warm welcome of the fear, but without indulging it.
And of course, that connects back into revealing the hidden.
Yes, exactly. That light of awareness just reveals it. And then if you're warmly welcoming, it just reveals itself. It just goes, oh, I'm safe.
Right.
I'm safe to show myself.
And then no longer is there a grinding against resisting and hiding, but a flow with the continuous nature of creation and consciousness, which is already in flow.
You got it. Exactly. It's just so natural. Yeah.
So natural.
Yeah.
Oh, Meghan, thanks so much for coming on and chatting with us.
Thank you.
Tell us about some of the stuff. Are you doing any online courses that people can join into?
I'm not doing online courses. I'm accepting new clients. But you book through KiranTrace.com, which again is on my website. So you go to MegRoekle.com and you'll find everything.
Or Kiran Trace. People can find you through her because you're under her.
I'm under her. Like I book through her,
right?
But all of her info is on my website as well, and how to book with me. So, and my resources are on my website and that kind of stuff. So you can go to her website or mine. But she has classes. She has a ton of classes, and she has what I would recommend now for people, which is this 9-day challenge coming out, just how to do some healing and grounding, and as well as her Free Your Mind course, which is a 1-week course, self-guided. You just get an email in your inbox every day. So if you go to my website, you're going to get like a discount link where you can get her book and her Free Your Mind course. Then you can book with me as private sessions, but my main passion right now is my Embodied Together online meditation that I do monthly.
All right.
We used to be in person in Chicago. Now we're going to be live streaming every month. So if you go to Embodied Together on YouTube or again on my website, you'll get all the info. And we have a live stream coming up, I think May 24th. It's a Sunday, 10 a.m. Central. And we have music. So it's with musical accompaniment. It's an embodiment and stillness meditation with music, beautiful musical ambient music. The guy I do it with, Austin Peters, is in a metal band in his other life. So it has this sort of progressive metal vibe. One of our hashtags is like rock and roll healing. So
rock and roll meditation.
Really yummy. What's that?
Rock and roll meditation.
Rock and roll meditation, exactly. So, so our 2 live streams that we've done are free on YouTube, although we love a donation under Embodied Together, and they were really yummy, like very healing. beautiful meditations. And you want to catch the intro where I kind of have everybody ground in awareness. Then we go into the body and then into silence.
Amazing. What any last words that you want to share about the nature of what's going on in the world? Because we've got a lot of fear being generated. Where is the embodied yes in that? Where is the truth behind the story of this?
Yeah. I mean, again, practically in my life, all I'm seeing is people like coming more and more into their bodies and more into their own truth. Like the whole aspects of their business falling away, which they had wanted to fall away anyway. I have some clients who are work at like high levels, like CEO, CMO type folks, and like their whole manufacturing is changing and all kinds of stuff in really positive ways. So I think sometimes we get one picture, but I think there's a lot of like new effortless ways of doing things that are coming online, and a whole new like things that like companies, small or large, had wanted to do anyway, they're now having the time to look at.
Right.
And there's a lot of like little breakthrough moments. I had a walk, so I'll leave you guys with this. I had a walk in my little river park in Chicago, and I'm in my body. I'm like walking my dog, and I asked the trees. I was like, well, the trees have been here a long time, longer than us. So I was like, trees, what's up? Like, what is this whole thing? What's this COVID thing? And the trees, not beings of many words, just said, it's a reboot. It's a reboot. And I was like, oh, is it reboot for like our financial system? And they were like, everything. And they kind of cut me off. They didn't want to say more about that.
Now shut up. We're busy.
We're busy, like, yeah, you human and you're, so, but I took it to heart. And I keep coming back to that word of like, it's just a big reboot. So I think it's a reboot for us personally, right? Like, what do we want? What do we really want in our lives? What are we going to pick up again or leave behind forever? A reboot socially, obviously, where we're like, who are we going to connect with, online? Who are we going to connect with, what societies are we going to build? What communities are we going to build or let go of? And then obviously global finance, all these different things. So I think that there's a lot of cool things moving that we're not going to see on the news. But if you can listen for it and look for it, I think there's a lot of cool stuff. So
amazing. Okay, great. Meghan, thank you so much for coming on.